Hello and welcome to a new video. Today, I've never even thought I would have to make this video because I thought enough people had, enough common sense, but no, they don't. So, as we know, Apple isn't always entirely, truthful to what they're promising or saying, such as the XDR to Sony comparison where it got debunked, the whole 16-inch having a quote-unquote studio microphone quality, microphone built in, and all these things. And you're holding your phone wrong. Apple has done a fair share of not being entirely honest at this point, but now apparently that the users are now just full on lying for them. So I was wondering, because I saw the M1 benchmarks and I saw the Cinebench scores being really, really high, and I was like, whoa, this is actually quite interesting. Did Apple finally do something right? Did they finally make something incredible, something revolutionary? And the answer is no, not entirely. Now, what I figured out is that the M1 performance on the benchmark, the synthetic ones, they're not really accurate. They're much higher than the actual real life performance. My assumption here is because of the deep learning, it somehow was able to predict that it was a benchmark and kind of knew the patterns and all that kind of thing. So that's my assumption. I cannot prove it or anything. It's just my assumption. I need to go dig deeper in that, seeing how the whole M1 thing develops and what we're going to see, but that's only my assumption right now. But let's just show you guys the actual performance, what's happening, and why you should be very careful when you read about the M1 performance, because people are just lying like really hard. And I'm going to show you how obvious and how blatantly they lie. It's so incredible. So let's start with this dude here. Oh my fucking god. Here we go.
Game at 1080p ultra settings, and we're getting around 22.9 FPS on average, which isn't great, but let's consider that this game is almost unplayable on most Intel Macs out there. In order to run this game on Intel, you must have a Mac with an 8GB or better graphics card. So you're getting similar performance to one of those high-end machines that cost thousands and thousands of dollars.
Okay, so he's lying, by the way. Here is the lowest spec of the graphics card you can get, to my knowledge, with the iMac. Yeah. Let's put the sound down. Yeah, that's totally, yeah, I can see lags. Oh wait, I can't. Yeah, the FPS isn't exactly incredible, but this is a night and day difference. This is also 1080p Ultra. So yeah, again, I mean, this is quite obvious he's lying to your face, isn't it? I mean, this is basically twice the amount of FPS. It's not chugging, it's not lagging, it's not having, it's moments where it freezes. Pretty easily debunked. So yeah, let's go on the next guy. Okay, here we go.
And this game is like very updated in terms of its graphic capabilities, so this should actually be potentially the hardest game to run that I...
Okay, he is, oh god. He is saying Rust has good graphics for today's standards. Let that just sink in for you. But that's not the worst. He's gonna say something even worse. But just let it sink in. Rust. Fucking Rust. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. This guy has never heard of Red Dead Redemption 2, has never heard of fucking Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, he's never seen Witcher 3. He has never seen a good graphical game. I mean, good lord, Rust is graphically really, really, really far behind. It's more around 2006, maybe 2008 graphics, I'd say. But okay, let's proceed and hear what Mr. Smartass has to say here.
I am going to test. So, that looks good. Is that all going to save? Yes, it is. So everything seems to be loading beautifully. I mean, I have built high-end gaming computers that cost me over $2,000, and I've had a less smooth experience running games.
Yeah, sure. Fucking Borderlands with lags on 1080p, 22 FPS, performing better than an over $2,000 gaming PC. Right. What the fuck? I mean, come on. What the fuck? Oh my god. He's lying. He's lying so hard. It's, what the fuck? Okay, so now obviously you're like, okay, wait. Is this thing actually performing great? You'll see. Come on. I'll show you the over $2,000 PC performance.
Then this is running. Macs usually are the opposite. Usually Macs run a lot, like just in general, like going through menus and stuff while you're loading, everything hangs up. You get.
This is so fucking it. This is so painful. All right, you want to see how it runs, right? Here you go. Here's how it runs. Here's the over $2,000 gaming PC performance.
Hey, this is the first game to stump the M1 chip, which is no surprise. This game is graphically very intense.
He's serious. He's not kidding. He is actually serious. Look at the game runs at fucking, I don't know, what is this, 5 FPS?
The computer is fully stumped right now. This is more.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and take Rust on a, let's say, a really, no, let's give him like, I think this should be a what is this? No, that's OTI. Like this should be a gaming PC. What we have here. This is yeah. This is Ultra, I think. Yeah, he meshed everything up. Well, fuck. That's a gaming PC roughly worth, I think, 350, 400 bucks, something like that. Yeah, I think we have a problem here. I think you might be a little over-exaggerating about the performance, sir. Alright, next dude. And it's the same fucking idiot. At least he does not make outrageous claims this time, but it's just an idea of where it actually lies performance. He puts everything on, what is this? Maxed out settings.
There's a little bit of action going on.
Let's see if he shows the FPS.
This is running actually pretty impressive.
It's not I've seen higher frames on Intel integrated desktop graphics. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, no. So yeah, it's like 80, 90 FPS without action. So you can definitely expect stuttering on 1600p and ultra settings. Which, I mean, if you set the resolution down and stuff, you could totally play this game on it. Don't get me wrong, you can totally play on it. But again, I mean, it's not insane or anything else. I mean, that's quite low end. So yeah, again, not very impressed in terms of actual performance. Now let's go for this one and figure out what's going on here. And yeah, let's. You can see that he doesn't have as many dislikes, and this is because, well, Apple people are not very tech savvy and they're just completely ignorant. But let's go on. I'll explain to you what's going on and why he's an idiot.
In the meantime, while this thing is chugging along, I have the iPhone 12 mini, little guy. Keep in mind, this thing is still slowly chugging along. I'm gonna open up iMovie. I'll even start a new file. Don't worry if I screw up because that thing is taking a while. So projects, new, movie. I'm going to take that same file, 10-bit HDR, create a movie. The first thing you notice is just the scrubbing in the playback, right? So this is a fanless, teeny tiny iPhone 12. And it's got a nice little head start, right? So this is on a battery, about 20% left. No iMac.
I really wish I had the facepalm GIF. You know, the one where one does a facepalm and then the whole fucking, you know, like a ton of people like as well. This guy obviously does not understand what H265 video acceleration codec actually does. Now, there's more on here. Has taken the iMac here, you know, the powerful iMac, and he says Linus is wrong about the M1 because M1 powerful because his phone is faster than his iMac because the phone basically has the same architecture in terms of the SoC. However, that's bullshit because he did not use hardware acceleration on the the iMac. I'm not entirely sure, and this is something I'm going to tell you right now. I'm not entirely sure why it's not like accelerating on default. Whatever software he's using right now, it should actually be able to recognize, oh, this is an iMac. This has it actually does not have a T2 chip. Oh, okay. Maybe that's why. I mean, but it has an AMD graphics card, and that still, supports it. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple just disabled it for the lulz just to piss people off. I'm pretty sure that could possibly have happened. So the reason why his phone is faster than the iMac is very simple, because he did not use the hardware acceleration, which, I mean, god damn it, why wouldn't you turn it on? A lot of people actually do this mistake. I've seen Snazzy Labs do the same thing. He's like, oh no, this Mac is actually on par with a 64-core CPU because look, rendering times. And I'm just thinking, okay, you have a CUDA core CPU, just use NV encoder like everyone else. No, don't do that. Don't have speed. No, we can't have that. So again, I mean, yeah, another moron who does not understand that, hey, can you just, use the hardware acceleration, please? Can you not do a stupid test? I mean, come on, it's like what he did is basically the same as me proving that a Ferrari is slower than a truck by, putting an immense fucking weight behind both cars. Obviously, the Ferrari won't be even going anywhere because it doesn't have the same weight as a truck. It cannot actually, pull as much because you're using the car wrong, right? You're using a truck because you need to maybe get shit from A to B, a lot of shit from A to B. And a Ferrari, when you want to, have a race or something, I don't know. Just an example. I mean, yes, if I use things wrong, I can make them seem slower than other things if I use other things right. Duh! So far, everything is, quite clear that, yeah, the M1 is not a performance wonder. And the thing is, Apple never really said it. Actually, okay, the other Apple marketing guys tried to go that way, but hilariously enough, the actual engineering guy here, he was just bending words, but it always made sense what he said. And he also indirectly said, look, our M1 chip isn't really that impressive if you just look at the performance. What's impressive is the performance per watt. Now here we go. Now listen very, very carefully what he's saying.
And allow the performance cores to be used for the most demanding workloads. And M1 has 4 of these efficiency cores, which on their own deliver similar performance as the current generation dual-core MacBook Air at much lower power.
He said the 4 high-efficiency cores run roughly on par with an i3 dual-core, which we know basically means they're a little worse. Apple, they don't really, I mean, if they're just a smidge bit better, you can fucking bet your ass they will tell you, oh, it's better. But it's not. So what is the dual core? Well, it's this one. It's an i3 netbook CPU. Its base clock is 1.1 gigahertz. Yeah. The turbo frequency is basically never happening. I mean, that is never gonna, if you open a browser maybe. But if you actually do anything, it'll be roughly around 1.4 gigahertz or something like that. So 1.4 gigahertz dual core is on par with 1.8 gigahertz for efficiency cores? What? So obviously, yeah, we have a problem. Because the engineer himself is basically saying, look, the actual performance of the high efficiency cores, and this is the beautiful thing about it. We know it runs at 1.8 gigahertz, and we know that the high efficiency cores, I think it was 3.1 gigahertz. We could directly scale those because the only difference here is that it doesn't have as much cache, but that doesn't make a huge difference. So we can kind of estimate as to where the high efficiency cores lie. And there we have the problem where we will realize, well, it's not that powerful. It's not going to beat a typical i5 or i7 processor because it simply isn't as powerful. Now, a lot of people, and the problem with my statement, what I'm saying right now is the i5 and i7 is there are i5 processors out there that are still dual core. This is just NVIDIA, Intel's very weird naming scheme, honestly. Intel is not really great at naming anything, so you could have i5 processors. I mean, back in the days, we even had i7 processors, which were dual core. Yeah, strange. So, now you can see how many people are already lying about the performance, and you can just see the blatant problems when you actually want to do anything, like in terms of gaming already. That's a problem. Now, let's imagine you want to do anything, let's say CPU demanding, and this is where, let's say you're a professional. You're not like some casual pleb like these other guys, but you're an actual professional. You want to do something where you actually need the hardware. I'm introducing you to the FL Studio app. Now, this application basically makes you be able to make fantastic music, and ironically, I'm not that experienced with it, but I know quite a bit, thanks to me actually selling a very, very thick gaming notebook to a person who actually wants to make huge tracks, and there I understood how actually demanding this can be on the CPU. So yeah, this test is a perfect showcase of how much power the M1 actually lacks. So here we go.
Let's open this up. You can see the loading time. There's no really auto settings here. We can see buffer length is a short one. It's 12 milliseconds. So I'm going to have it like this for now. And let's just play the track and see how well or how bad the M1, the Mac Mini M1 handles this. Yeah, pretty bad, as you can hear. Some more basically almost crashes on me. It's that bad.
So it's now he's going to compare it to the 10-core iMac. 10-core iMac. And there you'll realize that there's a huge difference going on.
So as you can see, it's working flawlessly.
So yeah, now the thing about this application as well is it really, really, really likes single core performance compared to, you know, the core count. As a the thumb rule is you prefer more. If you had let's say you have a choice between a quad core, really high IPC CPU versus an 8-core with lower IPC, you would take the quad core. That's how this application scales. You want core, but you want cores, but you want them to be fast. And the problem here with the M1, it cannot quite follow. And people who know FL Studio know that this is basically just a, you know, sample track provided by FL Studio. It's not really, you know, that demanding. Once you get into the territory where you need to actually use more of these synthesizers and all these things, it'll get really, really CPU demanding. Right now, when he runs this track, it peaks at, I think his 10-core peaks around 12%, but once he uses all these plugins and stuff, he will easily get around 50, 60, 70%. So, the conclusion of the M1. Personally, I like the fact that it exists. I think it's an amazing chip for casuals. It's not a professional chip. It's not meant for professionals. It's a low power chip that gives a good power to performance ratio. And I think that's really cool because Apple products are really far from professional at this point. They were once back in the days, they were kind of, you know, professional grade where you had a better screen at the competition. You had really good I/O. You had like a really good typey keyboard. And then 2016 happened and everything just went down the drain. And the PCs obviously caught up. You can't get a really super color accurate, high color gamut 4K touchscreen on an app on a Mac. You don't get it. End of story. And you don't get actual hardcore performance in a MacBook anymore. If I compare a MacBook to a, let's say, an Asus Studio or ZenBook Studio, however they call that thing, it's laughable. It's night and day difference. And I really think that Apple have the right idea. They want to cater towards casuals more. And the only thing I really have, like the only two problems I have with Mac products so far is A, their price. They don't need to be that expensive, especially with their M1 chip. I've looked online, $1,200 for an M1 512 gigabyte SSD MacBook. It's rough. It's really hard to justify. Because if you, let's say you are a power user, you could buy a gaming notebook with a 1660 Ti and an i7 9750H, or you could go, for a really strong PC or whatever. I mean, there's so many options where you could spend the money better if you're a power user. And if you're not a power user, the reliability and build quality of business class notebooks, yeah, it won't give you as much performance, but you have reliability. And that's the second point. Apple MacBooks were never really reliable at any point. They maybe you could make a case on the 2014 model. That one, you can kind of make a case that, yeah, as long as you take care of it, it won't die on you for no reason. But the other MacBooks, it's really, really, really hard to keep it without it breaking on you. So what I really feel before I make any, statements here on the M1, I have not seen the M1 has been released yesterday, so I cannot tell much about the reliability, etc. Maybe they also improve on that. That would be a big thumbs up. But considering Apple's track record, I'll stay skeptical at that point. I won't say too much on it yet. But in theory, it should be, harder to kill. But we'll see about that. In the end, I have really mixed feelings about the whole M1 thing. First of all, the performance is basically where I expected it to be. Very usable, but nothing great. Obviously, a lot of people who have never done gaming before just, lying, saying shit like Rust being graphically demanding or, oh my god, I built $2,000 PCs, so it's fucking worse than a Mac. I mean, they're obviously lying. It's very, 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 very clear. So, when you do research on the M1, be realistic. Do a lot of research yourself, and then you'll find out if it actually makes sense for your use case. Personally, if you're any type of if you want to go into business as a professional with that device, the M1 is not going to cut it. Basically, any MacBook will probably not cut it to this date. Maybe they will finally up the game. Highly unlikely, but hey, we can hope. You'll probably want to look into something else. But, so far, I'm really happy that the M1 chip exists. I really like it. I don't like how it's marketed, though. And I do not like how the users are just flat out lying blatantly. Because people really want to make it seem that this is a gaming notebook. But if I see fucking, 22 FPS in Borderlands, which is pretty easy to run, and I'm actually just crying inside. I've seen graphics cards from 2013 that run the game at 60 FPS 1080p Ultra. I mean, come on. 7-year-old graphics card. Oh god, no. So, I hope you learned something and don't fall for the marketing bullshit. And I hope to see you next time.